Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky!
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Named the dog Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in pints?
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my man who's a mintily fresh dad. It's Frank. How are you today?
Feeling minty fresh. How are you?
I'm good. I said mintily and not minty. I don't know what mintily is. It's like kind of like mint, but not exactly mint.
It's mintily. You know, it's mintish.
It's got a mintly quality to it. You know, kind of esque. It's got a fresh quality to it without the toothpaste blend. I don't know.
Reminiscent.
Reminiscent. That's good. That's well done.
Thanks.
Well done. You could do jokes like that now because you're a father.
Hey.
Hey. Are you well? Frank?
I am. Well? I am good. Doing as well as one can do when one is not sleeping.
Yes, of course. We all know that. Actually, my daughter slept through the night last night. And I mean, she's usually a good sleeper. She just wants to hang out in the big bed with us. But I wake up and it's like I woke up before her. I was like, It was kind of weird. I mean, she woke up like maybe 2 minutes later. But
sure. Still,
that was a nice 2 minutes where I was
That's
the
a
only
nice
one
surprise. That's a nice surprise to not be woken up by the child, right?
Yeah.
To wake up on your own. So when you say she sleeps through the night, like are there little mini wake ups during the night, or are you talking about like she slept seriously, head down to the pillow, you didn't hear from her until 2 minutes after you woke up?
Head down, didn't hear from her until she woke up.
Amazing.
Which is
amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. So I mean that's not always the way that it goes, and so I'm going to take a win where I can get it.
You take the win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You take the good, you take the bad, and that's what you have. The facts of life. The facts of life. A show I've never seen.
I've never seen it either, actually. Yeah.
Nope. That one.
Send your hate mail to.
Nope. Never. Send your hate mail to Academy Rewind at gmail.com.
Except don't, because they've lost the password.
Nope. That little link that says forget password. It's too much work. Too much work.
I really feel like for the last episode of Academy Rewind, you should unlock the email and see like what 7-year-old emails are sitting in there that you never answered.
Yeah, I should actually. I will do that. Because that's we're 2 seasons away from finishing Academy Rewind.
Yeah,
so really close. So Frank, we're not here to talk about Academy Rewind. We're here to talk about what you're drinking. What are you drinking?
Porch Rocker.
Morning. Ooh, good choice. That's in that tropical Sam Adams like mix a box, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I had some of those in my house a while ago. Frank, we're in the season of the Great Pumpkin. I'm sure you are aware.
Yes.
So I'm drinking a Shipyard Pumpkin, which is always good.
Yes.
Which I could, it's like. Do you obviously you probably have cinnamon in your house, and so like, do you like say like I could conceivably do a cinnamon rim, or just put cinnamon in the beer itself?
Sure. I have been known, for the first or second pumpkin beer of the season, I've been known to do a cinnamon sugar rim just for fun every so often. But I have not yet. I've not yet switched over to the pumpkin beers.
I used to adamantly not do pumpkin until I felt like fall.
Sure. I used to be that. I used to do that too.
I don't
truth be told.
Yeah, I don't do that anymore.
No.
Like I was like, yeah, you know what? It's a short season, and technically pumpkins start showing their faces in the summer anyway. Like we call them a fall thing, but they're really a late summer thing. So
yeah,
I'm just gonna stick with it and do it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I switch over to pumpkin beers as soon as I'm done with the summer beers that I have in my fridge. And I'm still working through them because I'm not drinking as many of them as I normally do. So that's the only reason I'm not on pumpkin beers yet.
I hate to break it to you, but that trend of not drinking them,
that doesn't change, does it?
No, and truthfully, if you do drink them to the amount that you were drinking them before, I would.
Yeah.
I might stage an intervention. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it might be a problem at this point.
Yeah, gets other things to do.
Someone's got it. Yeah, exactly. Got bigger things to worry about. Yeah, no. So
got smaller, little bigger things.
That is true. Mm-hmm. Yes, that is factually that is true. I want to be more like, I don't want to be that dad. I want to be more like the dads that we've been ranking in our pop culture dads bracket.
Yeah. So for the last episode, I put together this pop culture dads bracket for us to who's the best dad in a very limited scope of pop culture.
Who's your daddy? That's what we should call it.
Ah, there you go. Nice job. So anyway, I put together 24 dads, and then our episode was almost an hour long, and I was like, we only went through like the first round, and so we have to do a second episode, and so here we are doing the second episode of Pop Culture Dads. Who's your daddy? I don't like that. It's weird.
Overruled.
Yeah, I'm not going to allow this. So, allow me to go through the contestants from last time, for those of you who do not remember, and then who won, and then we'll carry on from there. So, Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was up against Alan Matthews from Boy Meets World, and Alan Matthews won. Carl Winslow from Family Matters was up against Jonathan Kent from Smallville. Jonathan Kent won. Maurice from Beauty and the Beast was up against Danny Tanner from Full House, and Danny Tanner won. Homer Simpson was up against Bob Belcher from Bob's Burgers, and Bob Belcher won. Mufasa from The Lion King was up against Marlin from Finding Nemo, and Mufasa won. Din Djarin, whew, that's tough, from The Mandalorian was up against Ned Stark from Game of Thrones, and Din Djarin won. Bob Parr from The Incredibles was up against Arthur Weasley from Harry Potter, and Arthur Weasley won. Daniel from Love Actually, Liam Neeson's character, was up against Brian Mills from Taken. Liam Neeson himself was up against Liam Neeson, and Daniel from Love Actually won. Scott Calvin, the Santa Claus, was up against Tim Allen from Home Improvement. So Tim Taylor from Home Improvement. So Tim Allen versus himself came out as Tim Taylor as the champion of that round. Daniel Hillard from Mrs. Doubtfire and George Banks from Father of the Bride went head to head. There it is. That's what I was looking for. And George Banks won. Cooper from Interstellar was against Martin Crane from Frasier, and Cooper won. And finally, Howard Cunningham from Happy Days was up against Ben Parker from Spider-Man, and Ben Parker won.
Well done. Well
Thank
done.
you.
Good
Thank
recap.
you. So here we go. We are starting with Alan Matthews from Boy Meets World versus Jonathan Kent from Smallville. The battle of the quintessential fathers begin
Battle
now.
of the dads. Now,
So Frank, if you
pointed
if you do me a favor,
yes,
use your one lookup, because
Yes.
we don't really need them in this game. Look at Alan Matthews from Boy Meets World, and then do season one, and then look at Jonathan Kent side by side from Smallville, and tell me they are almost the same person. Like,
yeah. No, they are definitely cut from the same cloth. It is definitely the same archetype, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild, even how much they look alike. Listen, Alan Matthews to me is an amazing father. He's got some strange children,
Yeah,
like,
sure.
and they only get stranger as the show goes on. And they're just like doing their best. It's like middle class, working hard, like gotta provide for my kids as best as we possibly can, while still worrying about paying the bills. Every the stuff that we all go through.
Sure.
And certainly Jonathan Kent is no stranger to that as well. Jonathan Kent has an alien for a son, but he's a better behaved alien when he's not under influence of kryptonite of any sort. And no one's trying to kill Alan's kids on a daily basis. So,
no.
Now,
Alan's kids didn't arrive in a meteor shower.
No, they didn't. They did not kill a bunch of people in the town while arriving in what is a very normal way for everybody else.
Correct.
Do you think that okay, so let me ask you this. What do you think Jonathan's flaws are as a parent?
I think flaws as a parent specifically. I mean,
they certainly, his flaws as a parent could certainly link themselves to as a person.
Yeah, I would say his biggest flaw as a parent is sometimes he is too protective of his child to the point where he may not let his kid, spread his wings, so to speak. When it comes to, he can sometimes be a little too risk averse. He's like, it's too risky, it's too dangerous. You might hurt yourself or someone else, most likely someone else. So you can't play football or you can't do this or that thing. It happened more in the earlier seasons where he was more like, I'm sort of putting my foot down about you can't do this or that, activity or whatever as a teenager. And sometimes that was justified. A lot of times that was justified. And sometimes it was like, maybe he needs to have some fun or make some mistakes or whatever to learn his lessons. So I guess that would be his flaw, Jonathan Kent's flaw as a dad.
I mean, he is extraordinarily overprotective for somebody who is bulletproof, or for a child that is bulletproof. But do you think if Clark wasn't an alien, this is a little bit of projecting, but if Clark wasn't an alien, would he be that protective?
Not in the same ways. I think not in the same ways. I think that he is that protective because he's worried about Clark being exposed, his secret being exposed and hurting someone else, physically hurting someone else just because he may not know his own strength, which are obviously directly derived from his being an alien. So I think that those same issues might not still exist if Clark were your average kid.
Yeah, I agree. So if they're basically par with one another, not to be confused with Mr. Parr of the Incredibles.
Sure, Bob Parr. Yeah.
Bob Parr. If they are about par with one another, do you think Jonathan kind of wins just for the situation that he finds himself in?
That's a fair question. In some ways, I still think he's, I think that it becomes much more of a toss-up. I wouldn't say that he has an advantage because he's of the position he's put in and how he behaves in the position he's put in. But if all things being equal, they're actually pretty similar as dads. Their parenting styles are actually pretty similar. Their demeanor is similar, as you mentioned. They even look kind of similar. So this one could be more of a coin flip, honestly. Just because I mean, my vote is Jonathan Kent, but you make a valid point that they're maybe it's Jonathan's circumstances that make him so extraordinary.
Yeah, I think they're both excellent parents, and I think Jonathan makes bigger mistakes, but I think just kind of the story allows him to make those mistakes. But the stakes are higher, and I think that he is doing the best with what he has available to him at the time, and so I just even though the mistakes might be grander that we see, I think the world he is entrenched in makes up for the fact that those mistakes are large.
Yeah. I that's true. I think I'm with you.
Okay, then that means I'm going to put Jonathan Kent moving forward to the next round.
All right.
Here's a weird combo that we didn't expect. Danny Tanner from Full House versus Bob Belcher from Bob's Burgers. So weird. Like, never really thought we'd talk about them together, but here we are.
Nope.
So strange. I think Bob's hilarious and wonderful and great and all these things. I think Danny's just a better father, probably.
I think I would give it to Danny Tanner. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he's America's dad. And yeah, in the 90s he was a big pop culture figure, right? A major pop culture
Yeah,
dad.
of course. Yeah.
And Bob is a wonderful dad on Bob's Burgers, and I absolutely love this show. And so glad that it's in season 12, 13. But I don't think you can really compare the two in the same way. So I would give it to Danny Tanner.
Okay, Danny Tanner it is. Moving on, Mufasa from The Lion King versus Din Djarin from The Mandalorian.
Mufasa on The Mandalorian.
The Disney IPs coming at you.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Listen, Din's a good dad. He's a new dad. And he's still learning a lot. And I would say that he frequently puts his child into situations that child should definitely not be in.
No.
By any stretch. Just connect those two wires together and then we'll be fine. He doesn't know what wires are or what they do or anything. Although, I don't know. Grogu's funny that way. Like he knows and doesn't know so much.
He is 50 years old, so.
Right, exactly. So there's that side of it. And we talked about this in the last episode. Mufasa's really hard to beat. Just in general, he's the freaking king of it all. It's the sacrificial father. He's got the good lessons and the good heart and
good voice.
A great voice, better voice than most everybody on this list. Yeah, and so, although Din's got a good voice too. Like, it's not Pedro Pascal's got a, in the helmet especially, it's a good voice. So I don't know. Is it the dad? Like, can the perfect dad just be the dad that wins because the story sees them as perfect, or are we allowed to make mistakes as parents, Frank? And is that is something like, I don't know, letting the kid get captured by giant Imperial robots something that we're allowed to do?
I would say no. I would say no. I would say probably not. Is this a referendum? Wait. If I vote wrong on this, is this a referendum on whether or not dads are allowed to make mistakes? Because
I don't know.
If my choice is it's Mufasa, which means you don't think dads are allowed to make mistakes, or Din Djarin letting his kid get kidnapped by an empire, which means you do think dads are allowed to make mistakes.
To be fair, he tried really hard not to make that happen, and it just didn't work. The good lesson of that is sometimes your kids just get kidnapped, and they didn't have Brian Mills. We took him off last episode.
That's right.
They couldn't get the Taken guy, so whatever. But along that lines, he does whatever he needs to do to get his kid back. So there really is something to that. And if Mufasa really cared, then he wouldn't have let Scar kill him. Is all I'm saying. It's just long live.
If he
the
really
king.
cared, but he didn't.
If he cared when Sybil was like, "Dad, come on, get up," he would have.
He would have gotten
up.
He's
Come on, get up.
Woo. Wow. Well done.
You are my son, the one true king.
Wow, that was the best use of those effects.
Thanks.
Wow.
There's no child setting. I had to go with baby, so it was. I don't know
what this one does. No, it's not as good. No,
that's the Matthew Broderick version.
Oh no! Yeah, Hakuna Matata. Come on, Nala, let's go frolic in the waterfall.
Oh boy.
Anyway, so I think it's Mufasa. Anyway, it's the point of the story here.
Yeah.
Is that Din's still learning, and Mufasa's got a lot going for him that it's just hard to beat. I think
for sure. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. The next weird pairing we never thought we'd see: Daniel from Love Actually, with the storyline with Sam, who's a little boy who's in love, and Daniel, the new father, who is the adopted father, in some ways, stepfather. That's the word I was looking for. Against Arthur Weasley from Harry Potter, father of many children, some of which are not his own. Father figure in a lot of ways. These are both very warm. I'm going to try to do my best, no matter what, for you characters, and so they're actually a really good pairing together.
They are.
They both find themselves in impossible situations sometimes, but ultimately, I think Arthur Weasley goes to wizarding war for his kids.
It's
in
true.
The protection of other people.
He, as we said in the last episode, he is just so devoted to being a dad. Like, he's not just devoted to his kids, but like being a dad is his whole being.
It's his whole shtick.
Yeah.
Being a dad and
it's
loving
his whole personality.
Muggles. Those are his things.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. It is. And like, we joke about like fatherhood, like dad's being a personality. Like, I'll get my like New Balance and my shorts and my white socks and my lawnmower at 8 a.m. on a Saturday or whatever, and like that's my personality now. But everything is a reorientation when you become a parent.
100%.
Everything is for that kid, for those multiple kids that you have. Even if like the times you want to pull your hair out, or whether it be your beard hair or the top of your hair.
Thank you.
I wanted to include you in that.
Thank you.
And so like that, and Arthur is the kind of person that was, like, built to be a dad. You just meet people and you're like, you're a father. You might be 12, but one day you're going to be a great dad.
Yeah, that was
and
me.
so I think like that's I think that's Arthur.
I think so. I definitely think so. Arthur is, Daniel is grows into being a great dad for Sam. Arthur Weasley just exudes dad energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely agree. 90s matchup: Tim Taylor from Home Improvement versus George Banks from Father of the Bride. So I love both of these dads. They're both good dads in their own ways, trying their hardest, loving their kids, all that good stuff. When it comes down to it, part of me says George Banks, but truthfully, the other part of me actually says Tim Taylor, because there's like constant self-improvement. Like we talked about this on the previous episodes, where like home improvement is not just like because like he has a show about carpentry and home improvement, but it's like improving the home, asking for advice, growing and learning, and like that was actually part of the character. Even if he backslides a lot and forgets things, or kids forget, like he's like really trying, and George tries too, but he's so neurotic that like he is a good dad. That's why they're all on this list. Everybody's a good dad, but like the model of trying to do better, like trying really hard to do better, which I mean, maybe I'm backing myself into a corner, but that's actually what Father of the Bride is really about, right? He's also really learning like about how to be a dad for an adult, which is something that's pretty unique to this list. Like, it's not just about like, oh, I've got a 4-year-old and I don't know what to do, or a teenager even, but like, here's my adult daughter who's getting married, and I don't know how to cope with this different stage of parenting in my life. I think just saying that out loud and talking it over, I'm going to say George Banks, just because it's different.
That was my inclination, honestly, was George Banks. Because I think that Tim the Toolman Taylor is a wonderful father, but he's I guess it comes down to like he's a lot more immature than George Banks is.
Sure. Yeah, George ends up in jail for hot dog buns. But I think that's the result of the stress, and I feel like that's exactly. Not Tim is a doofus just by the very nature of his being.
Yeah, he's kind of a big kid.
Yeah.
Tim, where George is, maybe he gets himself in trouble and is neurotic and all these things, but he's an adult, he's a grown up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's definitely a great, he's a great dad. He's a great dad figure, all around. So I say George Banks.
Okay, that's good. Cooper from Interstellar, Matthew McConaughey's character, versus Ben Parker, Spider-Man's uncle. One of them saves the human race, and one of them raises a boy that goes on to save the human race.
Yeah.
So, is it the action of the father, like to do it himself, or is the better parent the one that instills the lessons in the person that does it?
That is a very interesting philosophical question. Like, who's the bigger, who's the bigger influence, the person who does the saving or the one who raises the person who does the saving? Yeah. Gosh, and they're so different. Like, they're so different. It's hard to compare them on a level playing field. We talked last time about the significance of Ben Parker's wisdom that he imparts to Peter, right? With great power, there must also come great responsibility, which is obviously one of the great pearls of wisdom of like American literature, really. But Cooper saves the universe, so
I know. So here's the thing, though. Ben, well, though how you look at it, they both instill like these weird neuroses in their kids, right? There's Cooper, there's the absentee parent that is Cooper because he's off saving humanity, noble, but problems within the home. And then there's Ben Parker, who some of his final words to Peter before he dies is, "With great power comes great responsibility," which is great. But then there's this constant anxiety, hero complex. I have to save people because I'm like saving my uncle, who I like the guilt of not saving his uncle, and like with great power comes great responsibility. The lesson I always learn. So there's like either way, they're like those kids are like, I've got a lot of baggage.
Yeah, a lot of pressure.
There's a lot of baggage and a lot of pressure, and I just don't know how to cope with either of those. So it's actually it's really tough. I think there is an important part to mention that Cooper does reunite with his daughter at least. Right. And she understands at a point, like metaphysically, what he went off and did, and he does connect with them, and it's literally he connects with her with love across time, right? Like, and is that stronger and more important than just the memory of your?
Yeah, I mean, it's something we're talking about, something like supernatural that happens there, right? Compared with
well, if you watch the movie, it's very scientific, Frank. I hesitate to say
okay, yes, scientific, fine, but it is something on an elevated level, right? Not not a typical experience. Whereas Ben Parker is a more ordinary influence on his kid, right? Like he's an extraordinary father figure in many ways, but the influence he has on his kid is not unusual. It's not unusual to have someone who's bolstered by the memory of a father figure. And the lessons that they learn from him. So Cooper is more extraordinary in that way.
This is truthfully, I'm more stuck on this one than I really thought I was going to be. So I'm gonna say Cooper.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Okay,
with that.
Yeah. It's I don't know. There's something about absentee parenting is one thing when, like, depending on the situation, I think. And I think it's hard. Everybody would be dead if it wasn't for Cooper.
Yeah.
So he saved his children's life by not being there, and yet was still able to bridge that. Yeah, I'm going to have to say Cooper, even though it's kind of oops, I also just moved Cooper way out of the seed for some reason.
No.
Go back to the shadow. There it is. Okay. All right. So, Jonathan Kent versus Danny Tanner. Danny Tanner, quintessential America's dad. Jonathan Kent, America's
Quintessential American dad.
quintessential American dad with an alien child.
I will concede here that Danny Tanner had a bigger pop culture influence than Smallville's Jonathan Kent did.
Absolutely, he did. That's not really what the point of this was, though.
It's not.
Which is the best dad that just happened to exist within the pop culture realm.
Sure.
I think Danny tends to sit as more of a flawless-ish type parent. Like, he's pretty unblemished, apart from, like, he really likes things clean.
Sure, yeah.
There's not tons of mistakes that Danny makes along the way.
Right.
But I think there are more profound lessons that Jonathan passes off. And and I think that there's the sacrifices Jonathan makes are much larger in scale. And so I think I want to go Jonathan just for the the depth of what he has done.
That's it. There's a depth. Yeah, there's more of a depth to it than Danny Tanner. Like, Danny Tanner is
it's cute,
classic.
But it's not real.
Yeah,
I think, and that's really important. I think that's the important distinction where even though Jonathan is the father of Superman, it's still more real than what you watch on Full House.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay, Jonathan Kent it is. Mufasa versus Arthur Weasley. Speaking of things that are completely real, the giant cartoon lion versus a wizard. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say it's Arthur Weasley. Because I think he does the same things Mufasa does, but lives to tell the tale.
Yeah, yes, there is that.
Which is not a mark against Mufasa necessarily, but there's he does anything he can for his family. It's sacrificial in its own way. He'll put up the fisticuffs just as ready he is to have a heart-to-heart conversation in some way, but he also he's not elitist, and not that Mufasa maybe is just by the nature of
royalty,
being king, royalty, whatever. But but Arthur is not. It's actually part of his character in which he is everybody's equal, everybody's welcome to the table. This is it, everybody.
Yeah,
and so I think it's Arthur.
I agree for all those reasons, and on top of it all, I think Arthur was up against greater odds and sort of higher stakes than Mufasa was, and overcame those odds. So
yeah, I agree. That's true. I wouldn't think that they'd be higher stakes until you really think about what Arthur's fighting for versus what Mufasa died for. And I agree. It's the political infighting that Mufasa died for is much smaller than what Arthur fights for.
Right.
Okay, George Banks from Father of the Bride versus Cooper from Interstellar. One of them saves the universe. The other one ends up in
Saves
jail
a wedding
for stealing hot dog buns. Saves a wedding. Nuts. Nuts.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to beat Cooper. And once you pull out the universe saving trump card, it's kind of hard to defeat.
It is really hard to top that. But Coop, I know we just talked about this not 5 minutes ago, but Cooper's not present for a lot of his kids' lives.
Yeah.
And because of that, and George is present, he's Andy, and it's Cooper has to distantly watch his family grow up, that heartbreaking scene where he's just watching the videos of his kids who were middle school and high school, and then all of a sudden they're in their 30s, and and he's missed his grandchildren and the death of his own father and all of that sacrificial love. Whereas George is worried about the chipper chicken. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess it's Cooper again. I honestly didn't think Cooper was going to make it this far. He kind of felt like a random entry into this thing, but he actually is a very good father.
He is. Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Even when he's on Earth and there's that stuff with it's like good dadding but bad dadding all at the same time, where he's like, he goes to argue for his daughter where they're like, she's talking about space and the moon, and he's like, well, yeah, we did go to the moon. And they're like, did we go to the moon?
Yeah.
And he's like, I got you suspended, like, like, I'm gonna get her some ice cream and take her here. And you're like, it's tough. That's like was he being a good dad, or is that actually being a horrible father?
Yeah.
Like,
Gosh,
I actually don't know the answer to that.
I
haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
I might change my answer later, but for now, I'm sticking with Cooper.
Okay, let's go with Cooper.
Okay, so I'm actually going to go, since we're talking about Cooper, I'm going to go Cooper versus Arthur Weasley. We'll go backwards in this bracket. Cooper and Arthur Weasley.
I'm actually going to say Arthur Weasley.
Me too. Okay, because as much as Cooper saves the human race, and there's like a lot of all that stuff going on, Arthur's present.
Yeah.
There's like a lot, the sacrifice and the saving that he does. I mean, it's just the nature of the determination of the story. It's not like Arthur Weasley has the chance to like go into space and, all this stuff, find a new planet. But I think that even when both of them are present with their kids on Earth, Arthur's a better parent than Cooper is.
That's right. That's exactly. When they're both present. And Arthur manages, it's like Arthur manages to do the saving of the world and still be present. I give it to Arthur.
Yeah. Okay. So surprise tournament, incoming new contender. I needed somebody to go against this Jonathan Kent seed right here. And so what better champion than the reigning greatest dad of literature, Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird.
Ooh.
I needed an extra person the way that the bracket worked out. So reigning champion coming back to head off against Jonathan Kent. I was hoping, and I just feel like I knew what was going to come to this. There was Atticus Finch, the saint that is Atticus Finch.
Saint Atticus Finch. Okay. Oof.
I know. This is actually quite difficult because Jonathan Kent is a really good father.
Yes.
He's an excellent father. He does a lot right. He's got a lot on his shoulders. Good moral lessons, wholesome family values, loves his wife, loves his kid, all that stuff. That's also Atticus Finch. Does literally
That's it.
all those
You
things.
described both of them.
Does all those things. They're on the same playing field, except that Scout is not an alien from Krypton.
Sure.
And Clark is.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it. That is the difference between them.
Really,
and it's not about them. That's about their kids.
They are both the template of a good American dad, right? Like that it's really, really tough.
To use your own argument against you.
Yeah.
Atticus is without flaws. But Jonathan has flaws.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. It's true. Atticus is without flaws as long as you don't read Ghost Set of Watchmen, I guess.
But if you do read Ghost Set of Watchmen, that's good inclusion, Frank. That's good. That's how you win this bit. This is how you win. May I present evidence like Z?
Which is what Atticus would do.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like in Ghost Set of Watchmen, you're a racist. So, not as much as the other ones. But because you're there to curtail their, in some way. So in Ghost Set of Watchmen, he's part of this racist group, but he's there to make sure that they don't get out of hand. He's weirdly keeping the fire from overwhelming.
Yeah, but he's
everything.
now don't get me wrong. Some people are inferior to others. We just can't hurt them over it.
Does he say that in the book? I don't even remember.
No, I'm paraphrasing. Like being a member of the racist group is like saying, no, definitely racism is good, but
but he's like a secret spy in the organization, though.
He's
like,
I don't know.
I don't know. I read it a long time ago. I don't remember.
It's disappointing, is what it is.
Yeah, well, that's why she didn't publish it, because it's not a good version of the story.
Right.
It's not like this is the secret version she always wanted to release.
No.
It
shouldn't have been published. It shouldn't have been published for that reason because she didn't want it to. But it was published.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, if you're looking at it that way, then you have to take every version of Jonathan Kent into account as well.
No, I don't think that's fair.
No, I think that's incredibly fair because I said Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird, not Atticus Finch from Ghost of a Watchman, and I said Jonathan Kent from Smallville.
Wait,
not Jonathan Kent from Superman 78 or Superman the Animated Series or Lois and Clark.
But those are all completely different characters. Whereas this is two different episodes from the same character's life, right?
What?
Yeah, no. Listen.
Ghost of a Watchman
Let me
contradicts a lot of Kill a Mockingbird. Like they are not
point.
compatible stories.
My point is that those are two different chapters from the same characters. Well, you know what? Hold on. Are we talking about movie Atticus Finch or book Atticus Finch? Because then that's a whole different story too, right? Oh man, there's so many layers to this.
Well, I didn't really include book characters on here at all. So,
right.
Like,
so then there is no Ghost of a Watchman.
Like I did not include Bob Cratchit, for instance,
right,
who is also a great dad.
So there is no Ghost of a Watchman in films.
So
it's just To Kill a Mockingbird.
It's just Gregory Peck.
Ooh, just Gregory Peck versus just John Schneider. I mean, yeah. By my own logic, Atticus Finch is flawless. So like he's a better, example to live up to. He's on paper a better dad if he doesn't have the same flaws that Jonathan has. He doesn't put his child in universe risking peril at any
True.
point.
Jonathan's usually trying to stop Clark from the universe risking peril, though.
Yes, yeah. He joins the fray to save his son. I guess is a better way of saying that.
I know you just want Jonathan Kent to win.
I want to give it to Jonathan, but your logic is sound in that Atticus would win. So,
but quite truthfully, though, I want to give it to Jonathan
as
well.
Yeah,
but I just feel like that's not the correct answer. The only thing that I will say in opposition to our feeling is that Atticus does not raise a superhuman.
Yeah,
he raises Scout and the older brother whose name escapes me.
But he parents them.
Billy,
he parents them very, very well.
Boyfer.
Just because they're not superhuman, shouldn't be a mark against him. Like he parents them,
right. He just parents them in the world that exists
extraordinarily well. Yeah.
Then the other thing I would guess to say, just like as far as parenting goes, he's a little, even though he's warm, he's still distant. There is a distance, like an almost like untouchability to Atticus. And not just as a character, but like as they interact with one another, there's like an authority to Atticus, which is great that he is that in their house. But at the same time, is he accessible? He's an enigma in some ways to his children, in a way that Jonathan is not an enigma to Clark.
He's much closer to Clark. Yeah, they're very close. There's that warm.
Which is
bond.
that is then as Clark becomes an adult, there's not really a question of like how did Jonathan do this or what would he do or anything like that. Those lessons stay with him because he was a little more open with him. But is that the nature of the age that the kids are with Atticus, or just I feel it's the more the era than anything. But,
yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think truthfully, I think it's just kind of Atticus.
I'll reluctantly agree. Yeah.
Okay. Now here's the other thing. If we just I added Atticus out of nowhere, so we could just take him out and just move Jonathan along.
Well, fair.
Jonathan versus because it was the only way to actually do the brackets
the numbers
fairly the numbers fairly.
But hey, look, it's an upset. It's an upset. What can I say?
It is an upset. So, but here's the thing, though. Same argument, Atticus versus Arthur Weasley. Is it the same thing? Does Atticus always come out on top?
No.
Okay.
No. I don't.
Okay.
I actually think Arthur Weasley would beat Atticus.
Interesting.
Actually.
I need you to tell me why.
I think Arthur Weasley. Wow. I mean, I never would have expected to be
I
arguing
know
this
you
case.
of all people
but,
for you
but
to be here. I
yeah,
know this is
yeah.
very
But
unexpected.
here we are.
This did not go the way that I expected.
That's the beautiful thing about these bracket games, is that let's just put it this way: if Arthur Weasley and Atticus Finch were on a soccer field,
Arthur's gonna win. I mean, like, I love Atticus, but he's not gonna win that. Oh no. What's he gonna do? Throw the Book of Law at him?
Yeah, exactly. Here's my pocket copy of the Constitution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's my handkerchief.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think Arthur Weasley would win. He
because Arthur's a man of action and words.
Yes.
Yeah. And not that
He's
Atticus
kind of a
isn't-
total
I mean, like, there's a
package,
lot
you
of
know?
words, and obviously there's action, but it's like action. It's quiet action, which is not a bad thing, but
No.
it's really not. A lot of those quiet actions don't really have to do with his kids. It's about an example. It's like just doing the right thing, and like, and that's kind of it. And somebody else has to explain that to his children, which I always think is very interesting. And it's always like, oh, this is why your father's doing this. He very rarely is like, this is why I'm doing this. And so whereas Arthur's more transparent, I think, which is kind of the style of parenting that we are in now. Just actually not even parenting, just the world that we live in is like, everything is like, well, how does that work, and why are you doing that, and how does it, like, can you do it a different way, and so I think Arthur is maybe more prone to those changes, and I think Atticus, the saint like Atticus, is wonderful, is truly wonderful, but Arthur is more well-rounded as a character, and then that makes him a more
as a father, I think he's more. Well, we see him in more situations where he's put to the. That's it. I think he's tested in lots of different ways. Morally, physically, ethically. He's, he loses a son. Like, he goes through all of these different challenges and still, weathers those challenges and continues to be a good example in the face of, strife and adversity, to a good example to his kids.
Yep. And not that Atticus doesn't go through those things. I just think that maybe Atticus isn't tested the way that Arthur is.
He's not put through the ringer in the way that Arthur is. And so Arthur gets to show those sides of himself more readily. Also, we have way more time with him on screen than we do with Gregory Peck. But that being said, I think Arthur Weasley is the winner.
I truly did not think that's how this was going to go. I mean, I love Arthur Weasley, and he's a good dad, but I really I truly expected Jonathan Kent to come out on top.
Me too.
He is quality fatherhood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I guess that's what happens when you stick all these, in a lot of ways, quality fathers up against one another. Like, there's who shows their colors in the most way possible, in the most varied situations possible, and still holds true to who they are as an example for their kids.
Yeah.
Be like me, or even be better than this. And I think that's Arthur Weasley, baby.
That's Arthur
awesome.
Weasley in a nutshell. Yeah.
Cool.
It's doing it as a bracket is always fun because it's it forces you to do these matchups that you wouldn't have expected, and the results can be not what you would have guessed. And that makes it fun. So thanks for putting this together.
Oh, you're welcome. I mean, apart from making the bracket, I had a blast doing this. Well, Frank, where can the people find us?
Hey, you can find us at beerwithgeeks.com, beerwithgeeks@gmail.com, thoughtbubbleaudio.com. You can follow us at beerwithgeeks on Twitter. You can support us by going over to thoughtbubbleaudio.com on Patreon. Patreon.com/thoughtbubbleaudio, or rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that you get your podcasts. We're in all the apps.
Excellent. Well, Frank, it's a pleasure to have you 2 weeks in a row. Nice to
Good
have
to
you
be back.
All right. Really good. So, until next time, cheers.
Cheers.